I'm Mike Rogers, CPA, also known as Millennial Mike Online. Welcome to Crypto Fairytales number 3, The Blank Band. Stories that test what stands when the hype wave recedes. Crypto Fairytales is a short satire series about a recurring pattern. Stories getting promoted as systems. No names, no targets, no allegations. Just archetypes, incentives, and the moment a real question hits a soft room. Satire and educational commentary, not financial advice. Trilogy note: the Blank Band Trilogy is a three-part satire series. Crypto Fairytales number 1, The Token That Explained Too Much. Crypto Fairytales number 2, The Tao Republic. Crypto Fairytales number 3, The Blank Band. One lens across the arc, descriptive, not a checklist, and fictional. Crypto Fairytales number 1. In fiction, stories may outpace mechanisms. Crypto Fairytales number 2. In fiction, procedure may outpace implementation. Crypto Fairytales number 3. In fiction, records may help clarify stories and procedures. All characters and scenes are composite and fictional. Satire and educational commentary only. Not financial, legal, investment, or tax advice. Not about any specific firm or project. Act 1. The Split Screen. Curtain up. Act 1. The Split Screen. They called it the split screen era because everyone felt right in their own window. On the left, the banner houses hung their flags from marble balconies and spoke in the language of guardrails. They had committees for process's sake. They had acronyms with history. They called it protection, and sometimes it was. On the right, the frontier guilds built glass cities overnight and spoke in the language of freedom. They had governance votes like weather. They had manifestos like pledges. They called it decentralization, and sometimes it was. Both sides had a story. Both sides had receipts, at least the kind you could screenshot. And then a quiet third presence stepped in, not with a flag or token, but with a folder. The blank band. The folder had a blank band across the middle, a strip of white space where no one had been forced to write what mattered. Everyone argued above it. Everyone fought below it. Nobody had been made to fill it. Tonight, that changes. In Soft Mirror Kingdom, even the institutions are characters. The first signal isn't a headline. It's a letter. The kind written in perfect posture. The kind that assumes the reader is already on your side. The perimeter architect sends it first, with the calm certainty of someone who has lived inside systems long enough to treat them like weather. He does not shout, he cites. He does not threaten, he warns. He does not name enemies, he names intermediaries. Across the city, the innovation minister reads it as an assertion written in formal language. She gathers her council of builders and believers, and her response is immediate. Not a debate, a counter record. Not a vibe, a document. Not a meme, a table. The press arrives next, late but loud, looking for the framing. One camp versus another, they say, because it fits in a headline box. But behind the curtain, the civic desk has been watching with a different focus. Not for narrative, for scope. She has lived long enough to know a quiet secret. Outcomes often follow definitions. She is not a robot. She is a human being inside an institution. A role, a calendar, constraints, a record that outlives any one person. She also has something more durable than opinion. She has a process. Process without measurement becomes discretion. Discretion becomes inconsistency. Inconsistency becomes distrust. Distrust becomes rumor. So in her house, she does the thing institutions do when they fear drift. She looks for an instrument. Act 2, the round table. Act 2, the round table. It begins at a convening that is not called a hearing in the invitations. It is called a round table. Round tables rehearse conflicts into familiar shapes. The perimeter architect arrives with a binder of citations. The innovation minister arrives with a deck of principles. The press arrives with a question already written. Counsel arrives with clean hands and a sharpened language. The civic desk arrives with nothing visible, just a folder. White cover, no logo, no ideology. Inside it is a single diagram. 5 nodes connected by thin lines. At the center is a blank band. She places it on the table like a requirement not yet written. Then she says the line that changes the room. Before we argue outcomes. Before we argue outcomes, we fill the band. No one laughs, no one claps. They lean forward as if the table has become a ledge. The minister tries to float above it. She speaks of decentralization, of neutrality, of unstoppable systems. The perimeter architect smiles politely and opens his binder. He does not attack her story. He asks for its boundary. Someone says SMTC. Half as shorthand, half as a dare. Show me the contract. The room shifts because everyone understands contracts. Contracts are the old world's reference text, but the minister is ready. She has the code, she has the docs, she has the white paper. She slides it forward like an offering. And for a moment, it looks like the old story will win again. Then someone in the back, a tired engineer with eyes like logs, speaks without raising his voice. That's intent, he says. Silence. Cricket, 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 cricket. He continues, calm as a checksum. The contract is the static description of what should happen. He taps the blank band. Where's what did happen? No one has a slogan for that yet. Not until the second line lands. Someone says, follow the log. He does not abbreviate it. He lets it be plain. Then, because culture loves compression, the press hears it and immediately makes it shorter. FTL. 3 letters. A refrain waiting for a crowd. The turn arrives the way modern truth often arrives. Not through ceremony, through paperwork. A draft circulates. Not a manifesto, not a scandal. A dry working draft that was never meant to travel. It contained a line the room could not stop repeating. In the draft, log access was treated like a consideration, and the room called it FTL. In the coverage, FTL showed up as shorthand, not as a term of the framework. The reaction comes fast. The old guard calls it expansion. The new guard calls it constraint. The press calls it conflict. But the civic desk does not flinch. Because she knows the axis is not DeFi versus TradFi. It is story versus measurement. And measurement becomes the center of the dispute. Counsel offers the same quiet reminder. When records are unavailable, narratives can dominate interpretations. Act 3, the diagram. Act 3, the diagram. The climax isn't a shouting match, it's a diagram. The civic desk convenes them again. Same table, same folder, same blank band. This time, no one speaks until the band is filled. The perimeter architect tries to negotiate definitions. The innovation minister tries to argue spirit. The press tries to ask a question that already seeks a simple villain. The civic desk does not move. Someone repeats SMTC, and the contract appears. She asked for the log, and the room called it FTL, and records are mentioned. Not marketing logs, not vibes, not blog posts. Records where available, changes and authorizations. Who touched what, when, under what process. The room becomes quiet in a way only courts know, because everyone can see it now. Power is a path. Power isn't an opinion, power is a path. And the path leaves footprints. The concession arrives without fireworks. The architect and the perimeter architect see an uncomfortable truth show up as a node, a lever they have always called risk management, a valve they have always called market integrity. In the diagram, it reads as what it is. Control, not evil, not virtuous, just real. They swallow. Across the table, the minister sees her own node. Not decentralization, delegation. A small set of hands that can change the rules, even if the crowd votes on the story afterward. She swallows too. Neither side wants to concede, but the diagram is not asking for consent. It is asking for acknowledgement. This is where the dispute becomes concrete. 4. The vote. Act 4. The vote. The civic desk returns to her own office, the place where debate becomes documents. She sits in the meeting and watches faces try to keep their neutrality. She knows them. Some will move between camps later. Some will leave for other rooms later. Some are already polishing their resumes with restraint. Some trade narratives in quiet rooms. She opens the folder. She reads the draft framework language like a hymn. Not DeFi versus TradFi. One diagram. One draft framing. One set of requested items. Measurement with context. The question returned, and FTL followed like a refrain. The blank band is no longer blank. It is measurement with context. 5. The record. Act 5. The record. A note circulated under the draft is boring in the way truth often is. It does not declare a winner. It listed examples the room kept circulating. Contracts, permission maps, change logs, keyholder attestations, change histories. The effect is immediate. Both camps feel the same sensation. Not persecution, visibility. The old guard takes an emergency call. 10 faces off stage. Someone asks the question they all fear. Did the civic desk pick sides? The architect looks at the note. Then he says the only honest answer. No, a beat. What did she pick? The architect answers like a man who has finally seen the battlefield. She picked measurement. And in his mind, the worst part is not the attention. It is that his unseen power is now visible. A node, a path, a thing that can be named. The new guard takes their own urgent call. Louder, more people, more emotion, more slogans. Someone says, this feels like an attack. Someone else says, this feels like a trap. Then the quiet voice returns, the one that always cuts through the storyline. This only stings if we've been leaning on optics. Silence. Cricket, 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 cricket. A fracture begins here, in the form of someone trying to protect the narrative instead of the system. The minister realizes her own council has factions now. Reform versus story. Truth versus optics. FTL was not a slogan anymore. It was shorthand in the story. The classes go on. After the convening, the architect finds the builder in the hallway. No cameras, no staff, just two men who have been cast as ideologies. The architect speaks first. Quiet. Your people think we're afraid of innovation. The builder does not smile. Your people think we're allergic to reality. They stand there, both tired. Then the architect says, the line that is not a concession, but sounds like one. I didn't realize how much I rely on unseen power. The builder nods, once, and I didn't realize how much I rely on the same kind. The builder walks away with a private thought he does not share in public. He had always believed the future belonged to the builders, but the future often follows whoever can publish the record. Final landing, like a slow anthem. A contract slides across his table. A log opens on a screen. A key sits in silence. A contingency is mentioned off stage. A reporter deletes a sentence because it uses a simple frame and there isn't one. A lawyer underlines the blank band and writes, record. A clerk closes a folder and whispers a prayer no one hears. Two empires look into the same diagram and realize they are built from the same hidden materials. No revenge, no victory parade, just awareness. The glasses go on. The Jester Landing. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. SMTC was a phrase that steadied the room. FTL was shorthand that clarified the room. And somewhere beneath the noise, a neutral instrument hums, steady as a rule, steady as math, steady as truth, that doesn't care who you wanted to win. Postscript, a neutral structure lens. Postscript, a neutral structure lens. This is a neutral lens, not advice. A simple question. Can the mechanism be described without leaning on token, chain, or roadmap? If describing structure in plain language, details might include contract terms, permission map, pause rights, upgrade rights. Pattern in plain language. If incentives must do most of the work before the mechanism can stand alone, narratives become a weak substitute for evaluation. Stories can personify structure. Structure should discipline stories, educational commentary, and satire only. Not financial advice, not about any specific firm or project. Sign off. Sign off. This was Crypto Fairytales number 3, The Blank Band. The next Once Upon a Time curtain rises when it is meant to be. Written by Mike Rogers, CPA. At Millennial Mike 7. All the internet's indeed a stage. Disclosure. Disclosure. Crypto Fairytales is a creative satire series blending artistic expression with commentary on technology, incentives, governance, and culture. All characters, scenes, and organizations are composite and fictional. Any regulatory bodies depicted are fictionalized archetypes. Any terms like SMTC or FTL are story devices, not standards or evaluation methods. Any resemblance to real individuals, companies, or events is purely coincidental. Nothing herein constitutes financial, investment, legal, tax, or accounting advice. Views are solely those of the author and do not represent any affiliated entity. This is not a checklist, and it is not intended to guide evaluation of any real system. Copyright 2026, Crypto Fairytales, satire and educational commentary, not financial advice. Thank you for joining us at Meadowbrook 135 Media, the place where ideas connect.